With great delight that I'd like to introduce Valerie Lorig. Valerie has been a practitioner and a student of the Buddha Dharma for more than half a century, uh, was a very close student of Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche and actually one of his sangyam. And I won't say any more about that, except I guess you can ask her during the question and answer. Um, She's also a student of Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche. Uh, Valerie is a faculty member at Naropa University, and she's also a professional counselor. And she actually brings Buddhist principles to bear in her psychotherapy work. Um, and of particular relevance to us, Valerie will be co-leading Datun at Deer Park this year. So for all these many, many reasons, I'm very happy to introduce my old friend, Valerie Lorig. Over to you, Valerie.
Thank you. Well, hi, everyone. It is very nice to meet all 200 of you or something like that. Um, Sorry about the mishap on the reading, but we call the Kagyu lineage the mishap lineage. So instead of the overview of the path, you're going to learn about the obstacles and antidotes, which are practical applications of the path. So, but first, I
Sorry,
think,
Laurie, we don't see you. We still see Tashi.
oh, okay. Oh, there you go. Can you see me now?
Actually, we
Yes.
see you, so it may just be
Okay.
someone else. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hi, I'm here. Uh,
Sorry, Valerie. We can't hear you. I have to unmute you. Just one moment. Sorry. You can unmute yourself now.
okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Did you hear the first part or
Not
no?
really. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, what I said was that this is the mishap lineage. The Kagyu lineage is the mishap lineage. So here it is. It's known for that. Um, anyway, it's really nice to be here with all of you. And I'm honored to be able to do this talk. And when the teachings on the obstacles and antidotes were first given, it was in 1979 in Chateau Lake Louise, Canada. And when he first gave these teachings, we'd been sitting, for I think 10 days. And I thought that Trungpa Rinpoche must be spying in my mind because what he was saying was exactly what I was experiencing. So I know that originally you were going to study the overview of the path, and then because of some mishaps, it turns out that you're studying the obstacles and antidotes, which are practical applications of the path. But first, I think we should recap sort of your journey so far, which is that you were studying the Four Noble Truths and you got up to the cessation. So it was important first to understand that what the Buddha found when he sat under the Bodhi tree is that life is suffering. And that that truth inspires us to wonder why. So then you looked at the origin of suffering, seeing that this fixation on me or I or the projections that we create are that origin. So that's the bad news. But the good news is that once you start to recognize the origin of suffering, you can explore how to alleviate that discomfort, which is born from ignorance. And we call that the cessation of suffering. But just discovering the cessation of suffering alone isn't going to be enough. So that's why we need the fourth noble truth, the path, because it's how how do we alleviate that suffering and also sustain it. So, why is the Dharmic path important to you? I mean, why are you treading on this path? And I'd like you to just take a moment and think about that, contemplate that, because this path isn't the easiest path to tread. Other people might think you're crazy for sitting and doing nothing. I don't know if anybody has said that to you, like, why do you sit and do nothing? So just take a moment and think about what attracts you to the Dharma. I'll just be quiet for 30 seconds or so. Why would you do such a thing? Well, the teachings say that the reason that we want to tread on this path of individual liberation is to have freedom from suffering. But then we need sort of practicalities, like how do we do that? And Buddhism is different than some other types of religions in the sense that there's no one to save us on the Buddhist path. No one else can do this for us. We are the ones who have to walk the path. And as Tashi said, I'm a licensed counselor or a psychotherapist, and often my clients will come in and they want to either change or save somebody else so that they could be okay. And I say to them, that's a great idea if you could do it. But the only problem is you can't. So we have to walk this path ourselves, which doesn't mean that we can't have help or support, but fundamentally it's our journey. And that leads us to this notion of individual liberation, which in the Hinayana teachings and in Tibetan, it's called sosotarpa, which means that we want individual freedom or individual liberation. And to cultivate that individual liberation, we have to clean up after ourselves, our state of being. What we put in the world matters, which is so obvious right now in a world that is pretty intense. So again, just take a moment and notice what you put into the world. Notice what your relationships are like with your loved ones, your family. What's it like for you to be at work? How do you relate to your emotions? So just, and without, any sort of condemnation or blame, just who are you? What are you putting out? So just take a moment. I'll be quiet again. So when we walk the Buddhist path or the Dharmic path, we're committing ourselves to working with our minds, our whole being, all of who we are. And one of the main ways we do this is through the practice of meditation, which means that we're willing to bump into ourselves all of who we are, the good parts and the parts that aren't so great. I was just on a retreat with a teacher named the George A. Lopan at Drawla Mountain Center here in Colorado, where I live. And I thought, oh, I'm pretty good. And then I just saw this amazing amount of judgment and arrogance that I have. And it was a little like, ugh. But the good news is that if I see it, I can work with it. And so by looking at ourselves, by being with ourselves, we stop adding any further garbage to the world. We take care of our own dirty dishes, so to speak. We don't just leave them in the sink for someone else to clean up after us. So again, meditation is a way to take a deeper look at our habitual patterns that arise often unconsciously. And this teaching on the obstacles and antidotes are very practical. There's something that you can experience directly on your meditation cushion. They may be easier to recognize over longer periods of sitting. I don't know how long people are sitting, but they can be recognized also in short periods as well. So, meditation and shamatha. It's important when we study these teachings that we don't get heavy-handed. This isn't about being a good boy or bad girl in terms of that we can do this or not, because as you'll see, even some of the obstacles are pointing to not too tight and not too loose. If we get too tight, we're trying too hard to be good, which is an obstacle. And if we're too loose, we get too sloppy, and that's an obstacle. So it's really sort of a middle way working with this. And one of the traditional analogies is if you have a stringed instrument and you make the string too tight, it will break. But that if it's too loose, it will twang. So it's somewhere in the middle of that. So now I'm going to go through the obstacles themselves, and you maybe, reflect as you hear these, does that ring a bell for you? So the first obstacle is called laziness. And under that, there's sort of three types. And you might know this one. The first one is you don't really want to sit with yourself, and you're sort of on your way to the meditation room or your meditation cushion or chair. And then you say, nah, maybe not now. Maybe I think I'll do it later. I just, yeah, not yet. But then later doesn't come. So you can't even get yourself to get there. That's the first laziness. The second one is that you're kind of discouraged. You think, I'm not even getting anywhere. I'm just as neurotic as I was before. I don't know if this meditation business even works. Or maybe it works for other people, but I'm not so good at this. And on top of it, it's not entertaining. It's kind of boring listening to our own stories over and over again in our mind. And it doesn't even make you stress-free at first. I mean, the idea of shamatha is that it does develop peace, but we have to actually put in some work. And I remember a talk by Zonsar Kensei where he said one of the biggest obstacles to shamatha is wanting to be special. And he said, sitting with ourselves, as it turns out, is anything but special. And then he said to us, kind of disappointing, isn't it? And then he joked and he said, that's why people don't meditate. But shamatha is actually trustworthy. It allows us to get to know our own mind and befriend ourselves as we are. So that's the second type, is getting kind of discouraged, of second type of laziness. The third type of laziness is actually a word that you might not associate it with, is speed. That we buy into the speed of everyday life. You go, well, I don't have time for this meditation. I mean, I have a list of things I have to do. I have to get the kids to school. I have to make dinner. I have to check my emails. I mean, I don't have time for this. So we get caught in the speed of everyday life, and then it doesn't take precedent. But the good news about the obstacles and antidotes is that the antidotes are very close. They're sort of right next door to the obstacles. So when you recognize an obstacle, that's how you apply the antidotes. So when you recognize that you don't want to get to the cushion, that you feel discouraged, that you're caught up in life, just recognizing that can allow you to go, oh, I could do something different. So the antidotes for laziness are having faith or conviction in the Dharma, which Probably you do if you're coming to a course that spans from January to June, I think. This is a long course. Or if you're going to sit the Datun. I mean, why else would you do that? It's, sit 8 hours a day for a month. So having faith or conviction and also respect. So faith or conviction is one antidote, respect is another. And another is making the effort, that you make the effort to come to this class, that you make the effort to practice, that you make the effort to study. You make the effort to make Dharma part of your life. And the fourth antidote to laziness is a really important one that Trungpa Rinpoche wanted us to understand. And it's a word called Shin. Shin means thoroughly, and jang means purified or processed or cleaned up. So as a result of actually practicing, we become Shinjanged people, which means that we're not afraid of who we are because we've started to make an honest relationship with ourselves. And we start to become comfortable in our own skin. Shinjang means that we're aligning with our sanity rather than our ego. And therefore, we start to ride our minds rather than our neurosis riding us. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have our little trips, that we aren't crazy sometimes, that we don't get irritated, or that we don't have our conflicting emotions. That doesn't mean it at all. It just means that we're working with those, we're willing to work with those, and we don't add further confusion to the world. And this is what helps us put an end to suffering that we generate. So we become honest, decent people. And he says that we begin to mix our minds with Dharma or mix our minds with space, and we stop struggling to make life something other than what it is, and we start to work with what we have. And you'll notice this both in yourself and when you meet other people. It's almost a feeling that you get. It's kind of like you sort of like to be around people like that because they feel grounded, they feel comfortable in their own skin. So that's laziness and the 4 obstacles to laziness. The second obstacle is forgetfulness, which I personally know. I sit down on my meditation cushion and I just completely forget what I'm doing. I go off. I might be thinking about what's on my calendar, or I'm going to have lunch with somebody. And so I love the antidote to this, to forgetfulness. He says, you just develop a folksy attitude. What does that mean? He said that he used the analogy of brushing your teeth, and then I thought, well, one that really might work in this day and age is when you open up your phone, you have a password or you have to put your fingerprint on it. And you don't probably think about that so much. You see people on their phones and they're just going, "Dit-dit-dit-dit-dit-dit." So it's folksy. It's just something that you do automatically. And that's because meditation becomes part of our lives and we remember to come back to our object of meditation. And that starts to replace the habit of getting lost in thoughts and emotions and sensations, whatever you have. So forgetfulness, when you realize that you've forgotten what you're doing when you get on the cushion, that automatically can bring up the antidote of, oh, right, yeah. What I do when I sit on the cushion is I sit down, I feel my body on the cushion or the chair, and I start to use my breath and simply be. So that's the second. So the third one is sometimes we sit down on meditation cushion or chair, and we start to get really heavy and tired and drowsy. There's a sort of mental dullness. And sometimes that happens because, the speed of everyday life, you're going, 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 and then you get to your meditation cushion and boom. And it's almost like you can collapse almost. And I'm going to put two of these obstacles together, two flip sides of the same coin. The other aspect of sitting down on the cushion, and instead of having a mental dullness, you might get kind of a wild and crazy mind, sort of out of control. And in both situations, we're having difficulty stabilizing our minds. So with the drowsiness, and he even says we can have sort of a depression. It's a very heavy, tired state. And it might not even be that you're tired per se. It's just a sense of maybe being stuck in the mud of ignorance. And Rinpoche mentioned that he said it was a little bit like the animal realm, that there's a sense of avoiding reality, that we're just kind of checked out. We're not psychologically present. And with the opposite, the wildness, he said there's no sense of coming back, that your fantasies, your projections, they just run wild and take over. And in a sense, you don't even care because at least it's entertaining, because meditation can be so boring sometimes. And, you might be reliving how much fun you had the other night or who you're going to go out with, or if you went on one of the dating apps, maybe somebody really likes you and you're going to get together, and so both of those, either a mental dullness or kind of a wild mind, both of those take us away. I think actually under the wild mind, he looked at it from a point of view of passion, uh, aggression, or ignorance. In the passion, you might be scheming who you're going to seduce. In the aggression, you might be telling somebody off that just slighted you. And in the ignorance, I think he talked about that you could have a regret that that you even started the path, that you had to do this hard work, so you ignore the whole thing. So the antidote to either mental dullness or wildness is what he called a light-handed warning system. A gentle alarm goes off. And I thought in this technological era, that's also, how people put a alarm on their phone to remind them of things, or there's even, I think, apps that I've heard of this, and maybe you have too. There's apps where an alarm goes off, and it was a meditation mindfulness experience where the alarm goes off and it says, "What are you doing right now?" So it's the same idea that when you recognize that you're dull, you're there, you go, "Oh." Or when you recognize your mind is all over the place and you catch it, you just go, "Oh." That's a gentle alarm system. It's just a gentle wake-up call. And it's like a restart, like when you restart your computer, you just restart. So you use the opportunity for going off, the recognition of that, as a way to wake up. So that was the third and the fourth. Now the fifth one is carelessness, which is you don't put enough effort in. You know what you need to do, but you're kind of like, forget it. I don't want to do this. So you just don't. It's kind of a loose style of arrogance that you don't even want to be aware. Who cares? I don't know. It's a laissez-faire, hands-off kind of state. And what Trungpa Rinpoche says about that is you apply mindfulness, and he says you can shape your mind like a piece of clay or a piece of Play-Doh. You can shape it into anything you like. So we can experience a sense of freedom and cheerfulness by applying mindfulness and shaping our minds with a light touch of discipline and just bringing ourselves back. So being overly loose and carefree actually takes a certain kind of effort, but we'll reshape that. And this one is when the string on the musical instrument's too loose, the carelessness. So shape your mind into mindfulness. And the last one, the sixth obstacle, is no coordination. And when I first read this, I was trying to figure out what he meant. And I looked at some other texts, and it's that you're trying to overdo it. You're trying too hard. It's the flip side of carelessness. You're pushing. Well, if I really, really do this, then I'll be a good meditator. And that is actually an obstacle because it doesn't work. He said that when you practice this kind of meditation, a type of vulnerability shows up, a kind of tenderness, which generally we perceive as good. But in this case, it's we try and counteract that too forcefully. So we think we can't handle the situation, so we're giving in by trying too hard to apply the antidotes. And it creates an imbalance, a rigidity, and it makes the whole thing kind of fall apart. So by pushing too hard, the string is too tight and it breaks. So he says what we want is some balance and equilibrium, which would be, making your string on your instrument just right. So you don't need to concentrate and you don't have to try so hard to get things right. Maybe some of you perfectionists will have a hard time with this one, but really you can just start to relax and come back and have faith in your discipline. And one of the examples he gave was that you could apply 25% of your awareness on the breath, which is mindfulness, and 75% of your awareness on the environment or space, which is expanding your awareness out. And I remember at that 79 seminary, he gave us a visual image. He said, imagine that you were all dressed up, but you were holding a spoonful of water. He said, the spoonful of water is your awareness of the breath, while your nice clothes are the awareness of the environment. So, or maybe the spoonful of water, I could say, is the mindfulness of the breath, and your nice clothes are the awareness of the environment. So there's some tension because you're going to be walking with this spoonful of water and you don't want to spill it on your nice clothes. So if you don't have an awareness of the environment, you won't see where you're going or what you're doing as easily, and you might spill it. But if you're too tense and too focused on the water, which would be too much mindfulness, you also might spill it. So 75% on the awareness, 25% on the mindfulness. And he correlates this with having a sense of maitri or friendliness towards yourself while still carrying out your sense of discipline. So it's a combination of gentleness and precision. So these are the obstacles and antidotes, and they're very practical. You can actually do them and should try to do them in your meditation. So I think as you go into your groups, think about ones maybe you've experienced or ones, and what have you done or not done, and what could you do? And just see how you might like to apply them in your everyday life. So I think it's time for the groups.
Thank you, Valerie. So should we start the breakout rooms?
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna have 3 Chinese rooms today. One Portuguese, one French, and one Spanish. So you can move around if you need to go to a specific language, okay?
whoever is not in the room, you can also just choose the room. You can open the breakout rooms. If you don't see the breakout rooms on the control panel on the bottom, you go to more or the three dots, and you will see the breakout rooms. So from that breakout rooms, you can just choose any room you wish to go. Try to go in the room with lesser amount of the participants. Because I'm not sure what happened as I'm on the I'm just a participant as you today, but let me try to figure out as Carol is coming back to us. Maybe something with her connection. So I will now allow people to unmute themselves and tell me, do you guys see the room?
No, it doesn't give you the choice.
No.
No, I don't either.
Okay.
It asks for a
There
room
is,
code.
No, there's
I got it. I got it. I got it.
yeah,
So
there,
only the Portuguese
excuse
room.
me. Yeah, there is this transfer to room.
yeah.
Hi everyone. Is everybody what's happening here?
I just unmuted everyone because I wanted to understand if people can choose their own rooms. I don't know what happened. I just came back and there's still like 29 people here. So I'm just gonna try to assign them manually.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
trying to do
excuse me.
that as well.
Excuse me. I tried the transfer room, but ask me the code. I don't know anything about code. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvana. Got it. Got it. Okay. We'll try to assign people manually.
Yeah, we're doing that right now, guys. Sorry for the
and-
Oh, here we go.
Hello.
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 Okay, I will mute people back. Hello. Hello, hello. Nice to see you.
Hi. Are we in a room right now or?
No, you guys are not. You're not in
I
the
would,
room, but you might as well start the room here, right?
well, yeah. That's
Yeah, because
why not?
time is going, so why don't you just start the room here? We don't have a facilitator, but Carol, can you remind the question that we had?
Yes, so
Be
I
a very
was
big group. There are 80 people here.
Yeah, there are 80 people here.
Yeah.
I know.
So very
Well,
few.
well, you can try to start, and meanwhile, we are gonna assign people
okay,
manually.
guys, can you see if you can choose the room now? Can you check if you can choose the room now?
I can say.
I can. Now I can.
Yes, I think now it works.
Okay, great.
Good. Come on. Yes.
Sorry for the delay.
What room number is English?
All rooms are English except for the ones with specific language.
Come on.
Desliga o teu e põe o meu, mami. Põe, filha, põe. So we now have a new obstacle technology. So yeah.
What happened?
No, it's all right. It's all right.
Okay.
Oh, great. Thank you, Ina.
Welcome. Okay. I know you don't want to join the room. Okay.
Inna, are you there?
Yes. I
Oh,
already invited you to join different rooms like 5 times, but you're not accepting the invitation.
really?
Yeah?
I've been joined 3 times, but I've been kicked out.
Oh,
Yeah. So
oh,
maybe
are
you
you
again.
using VPN?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Sometimes it happens with the VPN. Okay, I'll try to do again. Do you want Chinese or English?
English. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, let's try again. Okay. 14 is your lucky number.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. Sorry there were a bit of some technical issues, but I hope you could have some discussions in the groups. So, Valerie, people are getting back, so maybe we can just wait a few seconds and then we can start the Q&A session.
Yeah. You're the boss.
She's got a very calm nature.
Valerie?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's so ordinary though. I mean, very.
Hi, everyone. Can you please mute yourselves because we can hear you.
I'm from the Midwest. We're ordinary in the Midwest. I'm from Ohio.
So I think we're everybody's back, so we can start. Oh, let me just.
You know, when people ask questions, I would love to know where you're from, your name and where you're from. Because I love having such an international Sangha.
Hi, Diana.
Diana, hi.
Hi.
That's so nice.
Yeah, great to see you.
Me
How are you?
too. I'm good. We did Datun together in Canada. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. It's wonderful to see you and thank you again for the talk. It really solidified the readings and I can relate to every single distraction at like different points. Though I find that when things are going well, there tends to be quite a few distractions. Like they're harder and harder to get past. And like when things are extremely painful, then it's really difficult. But it's just a good amount of suffering is kind of that's my sweet spot for my practice, which thankfully is where I am right now. But like that's going to change because whenever I start doing my practice, then things like get better, right?
Yeah.
And then I kind of focus quite a bit less and then things get worse naturally, right? And so like I was wondering if you could comment on that or share some kind of insights. I imagine you've experienced this as well and like how you can sort of stay on the spot regardless of whether or not things are going your way.
Well, this story came to mind. Judith Simmer Brown told me this story that a being from another realm came to the Buddha and said, "How do you teach these beings? They're so thick. Like in my realm, we can play a piece of music or show them art, and that they awaken." He said, "How do you do that here?" And the Buddha said, "Oh, they learn through pain, so that's how I teach them." And I thought, God, that sucks. I can't believe I ended up in this realm. Right. But when things are a little edgy, it sort of wakes us up, right? Because and at the same time, I think for me, at least being on the Buddhist path, I don't always want to learn through pain. And I also asked, I was in a tremendous amount of pain and I was with Sogni Rinpoche. And I said to him, I think I had remembered that story. And I said to him, do we always have to learn through pain? And his first initial answer was yes. And I think my face fell. And then he said, oh, no, 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 wait, no. We can also learn through conscious mindfulness. And that's what we're doing. So, so we're going to fall asleep and wake up. And just the fact that we fall asleep means that we can wake up. And that's the path. So, be kind. I think it's so important for us to be kind to ourselves as we go on this journey, because sometimes we're very hard on ourselves, and suffering happens, and it's not necessarily our fault. It's everywhere. It happens. So be kind to yourself. The more gentleness you apply to yourself stabilizes you and makes you go, okay, I'm messed up and I'm perfect just the way I am. Right? And the balance of those things. And then that creates a sense of equanimity in you. And when you're around other people, they feel that. And we generate loving kindness with prajna and clarity. I know that you do it. I've seen you do it. You can do it. As Rinpoche, Trungpa Rinpoche, way before Nike, he used to go, "You can do it."
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, so nice to see you.
You too.
Yeah. Mm.
Hi, Valerie.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm Nick from the UK. And I was just thinking about this very topic this morning when I was meditating. Not too tight, not too loose. And I think what triggered that initially is I've been struggling with my meditation for a few days. Like now and again, I'll hit a sweet spot and I think, yes, I've got it.
And then we contract around it,
Yeah, and
right?
then the next time I say, where did that go? Yeah, so it's an ongoing process or practice, I think, in order to, and only we really know ourselves, don't we?
Yes.
We know ourselves the most.
Yes,
And,
we do. For better or for worse,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And I think sometimes I come across this sort of hard knot of self-resentment, self-resentment in myself. It's almost self-hatred in a way, and it's very small, and I keep it well hidden.
Yeah.
And I could almost place it to a part in my body, sort of behind my heart.
Makes sense. It happens in the chakras, the
Yeah,
energy, the blockages or the
yeah.
openings. Yeah.
But I think it's also something that I want to protect. It's like because it's hard and it's almost solid, it feels real to me. So in a way, I think I protect it and I nurture it in a way, in a small way.
I mean, I think that there's intelligence there. Like that's a very vulnerable, raw place.
Yeah,
And as meditators, we start peeling the layers off of that place in your heart. And it's going, well, I don't know about this. But meditation is going to do that. Like that's
yeah.
part of, I don't know if it's its job, it's part of the result.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is. It's called the path of the warrior for that reason, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we have to nurture and cultivate a certain amount of bravery.
Bravery and like as you were pointing out, this kindness or gentleness.
Yeah,
Because it's bravery to look at the self-hatred, it's bravery to look at the yuck. But the antidote to that is some kind of gentleness and kindness towards ourselves.
yeah, yeah. That was it really. But I just wondered if you could talk a little bit more on carelessness because that came up in our group talk and we couldn't quite define accurately what it might have meant.
Well, it's kind of like you sort of couldn't be bothered, rather not. That meditation stuff, I don't know how good it is anyway. I mean, everybody's doing it, so what? You know, laissez-faire, I'll get to it later. That which was also laziness, but it's kind of like, like maybe I should just become famous and work on that instead of doing the stupid meditation boring stuff. You kind of disregard it as if it wasn't so important anyway.
Yeah.
There's much better things to do. You get too loose. You forget.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in a certain way, I'm merging all these obstacles together: forgetfulness, laziness, carelessness. They're like different aspects of something similar.
Yeah.
So then you tighten it up. You go, this actually, you might actually benefit from this. I think it might be a good idea. Why don't you try it anyway? You go, well, I don't know. Does that answer?
Yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Hi, this is Leah from San Diego. Thank you, Valerie, for your talk. What I'm kind of grappling right now is the third one that you mentioned about dullness and depression. And this is the 70s, and I would imagine psychology would be a little bit different. Like the definition of depression would be a bit different by then. And you being a psychotherapist, I was just very curious how maybe Trungpa Rinpoche would define depression if he were here today, and how that would be different with the dullness that he was speaking about.
Well, I think there are different textures of something that is similar. And I know, like, some people say or I've read that, people wake up with early morning depression. There's a feeling of maybe dread, or like you can't quite get your life moving. And one of the analogies was you feel just kind of mired in the mud of ignorance. So I think, mental dullness is maybe here, and depression might take a step further down. Like it might be heavier, thicker, less penetrable. So could you ask me more what you want to know there?
I guess I was wondering more if the kind of depression that is more defined now as something in those 5 things that was mentioned, or is it like a completely different thing that the Buddhist psychology, it's like a different kind of sphere. And so
Okay. If I'm understanding you right, I don't think he was talking about clinical depression. Am I understanding that?
Yeah.
Okay. So in our group, it's interesting being a psychotherapist and being a Buddhist. Like the ground of everything I do comes from what I have learned and continue to learn from the Buddhist path. But the Buddhist path alone with, say, clinical depression probably is not going to be enough. And I think if people are struggling with something like that, then finding a Buddhist psychotherapist is really a nice way to start to uncover and work with that level of, say, depression. Now, I mean, I think all of us have maybe like shades of depression here or there. And I think that's more what he was talking about when he talked about that in the context of the obstacles. Sometimes people can bypass their emotional body in meditation, and sometimes they have to go deeper and start to excavate some of the causes and conditions for that. And they need to do that from what I would say as a Buddhist and to this group that we're talking to from both a Buddhist point of view and a psychotherapeutic point of view. So the psychotherapy, when I was so Buddhist and I went to Zonsar Kensei in 2005 and I said, I was a graphic designer, and I said to him, I'm thinking of becoming a therapist, or I'm thinking of going back to school to study psychology and maybe to study psychology. And what Zonsar Kensei said was, oh, I don't know anything about psychology. I only know about Buddhism, which of course is not true, but that's what he said to me. And I said, well, do you think it's okay? Because I was so Buddhist, I didn't even know if I should go in that direction. And he goes, oh, yeah, as long as you hold the view. Well, I was coming from a Kagyu place, and that was sort of Nyingma language. And even though I'd been practicing for a really long time, I look at him quizzically and I go, the view? Because I wasn't sure what he meant. He goes, oh, emptiness, compassion. I went, oh, okay, the view. Yeah, okay, that I could do. And I said to him, well, I can sometimes get to you, not these days, but back then, I can sometimes get to you. But I realize that a lot of people won't be able to do that. So I thought maybe I could take a piece of it. And he said, oh, yeah. Marpa, Milarepa, Chögyam Trungpa, why not you? And I went, oh, wait, that's too much, right? But I did go on and become a therapist, and I never forgot what he said about that. And I feel as healers, which maybe that's us as a meditation instructor, maybe that's us as a psychotherapist, maybe that's us as a nurse or a doctor or whatever. Maybe that's just us in whatever we do, that we always hold the view, and at the same time we use methods that we learn. So, if people here are struggling with clinical depression, yes, get help. Go to some good psychotherapist who understands the view and use methods that will help, like just put, I don't know if people all around the world know this, but we have this stuff called WD-40, which it loosens, like if you have like rusted bolts, you put it on it and it loosens it. And so we put WD-40 on those stuck places in our being. And a psychotherapist that understands a view can help you do that.
Thank you. I really see the discernment piece of knowing it's dullness and like clinical depression over here, and just knowing that and kind of still being in contact with that is the most important thing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and somewhere in the middle, if you're just having depression and you don't even want to call it clinical depression, you're just feeling low, go get help from different points of view and don't give up your practice.
Hi, Valerie. My name is Mariana. I'm from Colombia, but I live in Asheville in North Carolina. Thank you so much for being here today. Yeah, so many have mentioned we kind of like cycle through the different obstacles, and something that came up in our group is that it's kind of when things are too tight, then this antidote is to loosen up, and when you're to loose, the antidote is to tighten up. And something that I personally kind of in my practice throughout the years that I kind of deal with is this sense of I have to be diligent and I have to do more and I have to accumulate and I have to sit every day, and I don't want to be a lazy practitioner. And then it's always no, you should loosen up a little, but then that can go in the other direction where things are to lose, and it's oh, I don't need to sit, I can just bring my practice into everything I do, so I guess I'm always kind of trying to figure out how to not trick myself into thinking that, I'm doing too much or I'm doing too little, and, without, finding that middle way, no pun intended, but how do we not trick ourselves into thinking oh, I can just loosen up and because obviously I want to bring my practice into everyday life and I really want to imbue my life with practice. But at the same time, I cannot think that like, like just doing the dishes and taking care of the kids is going to replace my sitting meditation. So how to kind of like find that middle ground where we can do both.
Who do you trust most in your life?
Who do I trust most in my life? I don't know. I guess it depends on what what the issue is. But I mean, I try to, when I'm really kind of in need of trusting, I try to trust the guru and just do that.
Well, so what's the feeling of trust when you trust the guru? What's the feeling of that?
The feeling is that, so it's not like a blind faith, like someone's gonna take care of it for me, but it's more like there is no specific solution that I need to find, and I need to do like this one thing that's gonna fix it. It's just this sense of trust that things are gonna work out, and maybe it'll be hard, maybe it'll become easy, but somehow at the end things will even out.
That's it.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, trust yourself. Because see, if you know that, and you obviously know it because you just said it, you just answered your own question. So now I'm not, I have 1% European Jew in my background, but I lived in New York City. And if I was your Jewish grandmother, I would go, trust yourself.
That's good. I also have 1% Jewish, so I'll listen to that.
Trust yourself. When you start going like this and then you listen to the Jewish grandmother, she goes, trust yourself. And then you'll know what to do.
Thank
you. Yeah.
Hi, Valerie. Thank you so much for your teaching. My name is Breeze. I come from China originally, and I live in Switzerland. My Chinese name Chunfeng means spring breeze. That you wonder. This breeze is not on my passport. I have one question. Since I heard you mentioned you're a psychotherapist. I actually work as a coach in a company, so not strictly speaking psychological counseling, but really more as a leadership development coach in a company, and I do individual sessions. So I'm in the process, and I'd love to sort of hear some advice from you from a Dharma practitioner perspective. So I'm quite a somatic person. And I realize when I'm having my coaching sessions, I feel physically the feelings with the other person. And often cases, it's headache, or shoulder tense, and I actually pain. So I went through the process of saying, great, it's okay. And I go to like salt spas and go sunshine and touch trees, etc. Kind of just wanting to regain balance. And I realized actually, like the view, as you mentioned, the studying of let's say the Diamond Sutra or the Heart Sutra, anything that's to do with emptiness actually really helps me to not attach to a certain outcome. Here is my question. I'm kind of in this process of whenever I'm more in this space of, okay, not attaching, I'm coming to this rather free space of maybe I just don't need to care that much. But then on the other hand, on the other side, I'm just saying I'm also not that diligent. So like, I sometimes actually just forget to practice, especially in the evenings and when I'm with my daughter. And then this diligence side kicks in and say, "Oh, how can you be that?" And I'm claiming, right, in the workplace, I'm using the Dharma to support colleagues. But then I'm sometimes I struggle like feeling the feeling very nice of just feeling free of that non-attachment. But then I'm still very much bound by all the cliches that I do know I have. So I really appreciate some advice, Valerie, how you are working with this type of process, and any advice you could share, perhaps.
So it feels like there's a couple different aspects to what you're wondering about. One is that you're somewhat permeable and take on the energy of other people. Is
Yes.
that true?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other is that you're supposedly this meditator that's giving people advice, but you go home and you hang out with your daughter or watch Netflix.
Yeah, and I was just like, yes. So yes.
And the kind of, if you think you're like maybe an imposter or something like that.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, okay. But maybe not so much that, maybe more just you're wondering about the discrepancy between what you're telling them and what you do at home.
Also, I mean, I think one thing is very clear for me, that I'm very, like, I am very determined. So like, even if I get lazy every now and then, I'm never away from the path. That is very clear with me.
Oh, okay.
I'm sort of just, I guess it's kind of a mixture of feelings of on the one hand, when I'm practicing, let's say, the non-attachment, the emptiness, or the prajna parameter, anything of that, I actually feel very good and I relax. And,
Okay.
and then when I do that, I actually sometimes just don't so much caring about the rigorous practice. And then it will kick in, that I'll say, the diligent part of me saying, you shouldn't do that. Like, you really should be rigorous
Oh, yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm kind of jumping like that. Yeah.
It's similar, those two obstacles are like carelessness and lack of coordination, the too tight, too loose, too tight. But before we go there, I want to address sounds like you might be a highly sensitive person that you
I'm
feel.
definitely quite somatic. Like, I do feel others feeling
So
pain.
there's a great website. If you put hsp.com, it's highly sensitive
Oh, yeah.
person.
Mhm.
Elaine Aaron, I don't know if you know her. She's a psychotherapist, and she came up with the term highly sensitive person.
Mhm.
Because she is one. And she has, but I like seeing her on video because she's totally ordinary. She's not like, oh, I'm so sensitive. She's not like that. She's just totally ordinary.
Yeah.
But she talks about what it's like to be a highly sensitive person and take on other people's energy. So you're taking maybe on, you feel it somatically or whatever. So I would go to her site. I think with that, we actually have to have some kind of energetic boundaries. Because it's not really good for you, and it's not really good for, we need highly sensitive people because you're like our barometers for what's going on. And at the same time, it takes a toll on you. So I would look at different kind of energetic boundary exercises.
Okay. Yeah.
John Chitty and Dancing with Yin and Yang. It's a book. He has them.
Okay.
And then look up HSP. You'll find that.
Yeah.
And then your question's similar to the last one in the sense of, like, I think again, you're already, that you're diligent. You know that, right? Is that true?
I know I'm very determined. I'm not so sure I'm so diligent.
Very determined. So on the one hand, I mean, this might sound, I don't know, I'm just going to say it. On one hand, relax the determination, and then the other hand, sharpen the kind of lackadaisical. Again, because we're seeking some kind of balance. And I think honestly that we don't need to be so hard on ourselves. And if we just trust, and so like when you're doing the dishes or when you're hanging out with your daughter, Dzogchen Kensei says that all the time, like just bring your awareness into everyday life. I mean, because you and I, we're not monks and nuns. there might be some in this group, but for the most part, we're lay people. And so we need to use our everyday life also as our practice, that we start to make our practice 24/7. And so that means that we're not always just, oh, I'm the great meditator, you know. We practice there so that it carries over into all that we do. That's the idea. You know, so when you practice. When you're not practicing, do whatever it is you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Valerie. I'll check out the resources. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hi, Sangeeta. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. You are muted. You have to unmute yourself.
It's down at the bottom of your screen. And it'll say audio.
There's a microphone icon. Oh, yeah. No.
So thanks, Valerie, for the teachings. This thing which you mentioned about 25% mindfulness and 75% open awareness. So I just wanted to know what is the logic behind it? Because when I sit for a meditation, either I find, if mind is all over the place, then, I'm like completely on my breath, or any kind of placement meditation helps me. And then I can switch depending on how my body and mind is feeling at any moment. So it might be just 10 minutes, 10% into my focus, and then open awareness, or it might be like whole of open awareness, or 80% open. So is there some kind of a reasoning behind this 25-75? So I was curious about that, if you could.
Well, I actually think your method's probably better. But I think that there was sort of an overview of, this could be what the balance looks like. But you're definitely tuning in to who you are at any given moment.
Right.
So you're adjusting. You're going, oh, I need to tighten this up. So you do. Oh, I need to loosen this up. So you do.
Right.
So I think you know what you need to do, and keep doing what you're doing. It sounds really good.
Okay, wonderful. I thought there is some kind of maybe a kind of a deeper thinking behind that. So I wanted to just know what it was.
I think he was trying to give sort of the general sense. Right. He didn't want people, like the type of meditation that we learned was out breath, right? I mean, this type of meditation is very kind of Mahamudra, even though it's shamatha vipassana, right? Like in the beginning, we have to pay more attention because we're newer. And so we have to be more on task. As we become more on task and that becomes second nature to us, it starts to open out naturally. So really, the shamatha vipassana that we're practicing is really, in its fruition, Mahamudra practice. That's where it naturally ends up going. So yes, in the beginning, it's like, let's rein it in, and then that becomes second nature or more natural. Some days, you could be meditating for 50 years, and some days it's not at all, and you have to go, hey, get back here. But generally you'll start to, it becomes a way of life.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Valerie. Thank you very much for your teaching. We have just completed a meditation teaching by Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche on the four seals and the shamatha. So his perspective on non-special meditation is very impressive. Now I'm conducting a survey for the lecture by Bristol tomorrow. The topic is about bodhicitta in the AI workplace. According to the feedback of this survey, the vast majority of responses were highly consistent. No matter how the world changes, I have a stable inner ground. It sounds as if everyone has mastered an unshakable equanimity regardless of the cause. But the subsequent answers about the question, what people long to take away from the lecture, shows a different color. The most honest longings were how to stop agonizing over the future and how to find security. So I feel that this is not just a contradiction. It seems like a disconnect, and reveals a violent tear in professional practice, the gap between pseudo equanimity and deep-seated anxiety. I'd like to learn your opinion on this.
Oh boy. Oh, could you ask me that in one sentence? What it is you want me to say?
Okay, my question is very short. How do you consider the relationship between pseudo equanimity and deep-seated anxiety in this period?
Pseudo-equanimity and deep-seated anxiety. They're kind of opposites, huh? Like one's over here and one's over here. Pseudo-equanimity and deep-seated anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure. Pseudo-equanimity is this term spiritual bypassing that I think John Wellwood came up with, or Trungpa Rinpoche called it spiritual materialism. So we're certainly deluding ourselves, thinking that we have something when maybe we haven't actually put in the work or the effort that would be true equanimity. Pseudo equanimity seems like it has a pretending quality or a bypassing quality to it. So that's sort of on one end of the spectrum. And then on the other end of the spectrum is this deep anxiety, which seems to contract very much into itself and doesn't have much openness or much awareness, like lacking in the Vipassana. I really want to answer from an honest place, and I'm not sure what to say. Deep anxiety needs to lighten. It needs to relax. It needs to or get support. Maybe be acknowledged so that it can almost say, well, wow, you finally see me. And again, if it's deep anxiety, I do think that some kind of other psychological work would be helpful. And the pseudo equanimity needs to tighten up. It needs to get more disciplined. It needs to not try and take the easy way and think that it's awakened when it's diluted. That's I don't know if that's answering your question. It's kind of the best I can do. I don't know if Ken or Tashi or anybody has any, or Lori, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you. At the moment, we cannot find a satisfying solution toward this issue.
You'll have to ask a more enlightened teacher. Maybe you should ask Donsor Kensei this one.
Thank you.
Valerie, Nadia, I will let you ask soon. We have a few questions from the chat, so maybe I could ask one question from the chat before we move on. One of them is meditation necessary on the path to enlightenment?
Yes. Because meditation is how we reveal our deceptions and how we embrace both our deception and our wisdom. Meditation is what makes that possible.
Okay, thank you. Nadia, you can ask your question.
Hi. So I was writing a commentary just to add a little bit on the question of CH Sophie. Like, it seems to me that maybe in the context of her question, maybe the pseudo equanimity would be like a defense mechanism against, like in this context, it's like struggling against the deep-seated anxiety. So it's still it comes from a place of it's like if you're still trying to shield yourself from a perceived threat, you still think that there is really something out there to get you. So so you're just using the equanimity as a shield instead of really embodying it, really manifesting a real equanimity. I was just trying to help you.
That's really good, Nadia. I like that. That's fabulous.
Yeah, that was it.
Very
Goodbye.
smart, very astute. Thank you.
Hi, Jingru, you can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, Valerie. I'm Jingwei from Singapore. It's very late at night since it's so dark. I kind of have been having a question. I don't know if I can express it clearly, but I think sometimes whether it's during meditation or post-meditation or simply life happening without awareness or anything, sometimes there is an experience of loss of references.
Yes.
I would like to ask you, from your experience and knowledge, like how I'm curious, do people all because my default response is fear. Like,
Yes.
is that like common across all beings, or do like different beings with different come elements, do they experience it differently? And just any advice in general. Thank you.
That's a really interesting question. And I do think that if you are going to meditate for long periods of time, or over a period in your life, that loss of reference point does start to happen. And it's it's sort of like an egolessness is starting to happen, but we don't actually, it's not like how we thought that would happen. We thought it would feel like good, which eventually I think it does. But when that loss of reference point of ourselves first starts to happen, it can be disorienting and does cause fear, like you said, because there's sort of a dissolution of who we thought we were, and 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 suddenly we don't know if that was us. We don't have those reference points start falling away. I know, like, I think that happened to me when I first started meditating, and I went to it was Naropa, 1974, and I went to my meditation instructor. I was kind of freaking out. And he said, "Oh, don't worry, just go back and meditate." And I was like, "Ah," like that. So there's a there's a really interesting guy named David Treleaven, Treleaven, and he works with trauma sensitive mindfulness, and he's got a great website. He's from Canada, from Toronto, and he addresses these kinds of things. So I think as seasoned meditation instructors, these days we don't, as people's ego is starting to get deconstructed, we don't always just say to people, "Oh, that's great, go back, just go back and sit." That now we can hold people a little bit differently and go, "Oh, okay, you know, maybe for you, you might need to move a little bit. Maybe for you, you might need, maybe the breath isn't the only object of meditation. You know, maybe you use sound or sight or just something that has a little bit, even a candle flame, even has a little bit more substance to it, because sometimes the out breath is so vast that that dissolution happens quickly. So in the long run, I think it's a good thing. In the short run, it can really cause a lot of fear. And think that you should treat yourself with kindness. If it's too much and too intense, just drop the technique and then come back. And work with a meditation instructor who doesn't tell you just to go back and sit. Who tells you, oh, okay, so what's going on? What's the texture of that? What's that like? Okay, how can we work with that? Does that help?
Uh, I, I, I guess at some point I have to go back to Rinpoche, but for me, it happens more actually in movement, particularly when I'm in transit, like moving from one place to another. That dissolution of this sense of here and now dissolves more easily.
So
Is
for
the
you, be more stabilizing to just sit then?
maybe, but you're saying it's good because we still sometimes doing that is good because we still need a sense of stability. Is that my
Yeah. Yes.
is that right in understanding?
You want, it's like, you know, well, okay, so for you, maybe what you do is you start to feel the earth quality of your body. You start to feel the gravity of yourself sitting on a cushion. You can actually touch your body so that you get a sense of groundedness, because it sounds like when you're in transition, you're starting to dissolve a little bit more, and that produces fear. You're muted.
Sorry, it's just my kids keep walking in and out. I'm asking them to. Sorry. Yeah, but I'm listening. I'm listening. Yes, I hear you.
So, yeah, hi. Yeah, so, you know, for you, come more into the earth element, solidity,
Okay.
form, gravity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I'll try that. Thank you.
and for you, I think in those cases, you could use both the in and the out breath, not just the out breath. You could pay attention to the in and the out. You want to get more stabilized.
I see. Okay. Thank
And
you. I'll try that. Thanks.
that'd be good too.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
So since we're a little bit over time, I'm gonna ask just two questions that have been sent on the chat some time ago, and then maybe Inez, you can send your question by email and we can forward it to Valerie, because we have an important announcement at the end. So the first question is from Claudia. She asks, is physical pain an obstacle to the practice? If it is, what would be the antidote?
Well, I know for me, when I have a lot of physical pain, it it's distracting. And there's two things. One is, you know, we actually, if you really have physical pain or things that you need to address, then address them. So for instance, if your back hurts and it's better for you to sit on a chair with a cushion behind you or up against the wall, do it. Or if you can't, you know, whatever it is, you know your body better than anybody else. So give your body what it needs in order to put you in the best physical position to sit. That's one side of it. So really do take care of yourself and don't ignore what shouldn't be ignored. The other far side of that is that we sometimes we have psychosomatic body pain that we give in to every little single pain that comes, every itch, every whatever. And so you again know your body better than anybody else. So if you feel like it's kind of psychosomatic pain, then ask yourself, okay, just stay with this a little bit longer. But I don't want anybody hurting their bodies by being too rigid. I think that's a misunderstanding. So if you can find where you are in that, and support your body as much as you can without sort of giving in to every whim, that's what I would say.
Thank you, Valerie. And just one very quick question to finish. It's from Anna's from Lisbon. She asks, what Sangyum means exactly, and how being Trungpa Rinpoche's Sangyum influenced your practice on the path.
Oh boy. Okay. Sangya means either secret mother or secret consort. And in 1985, Rinpoche came out of a year-long retreat. And I think that he kind of got information that he needed like more consistent companionship. He always had somebody with him, not for his own benefit particularly, but he wanted to reach as many people as possible. And so he was never alone. I don't know how he did it. I'd lose my mind. But anyway, he was never alone because he was always working with students every minute. But as he went on this retreat in 1984, he came out in 1985, and I think it became apparent to him, or he got instructions from the Dakinis or something, that he needed to have more consistent people and that we needed to actually start to care for him more. So he ended up kind of doing a ceremony for 7 of us, and we all women. He still had male attendants as well, but we ended up being with him sort of on a 24/7 rotation. And sometimes there were only 5 of us in town. So it was pretty extensive. And we were with him until his death. And so we understood what he needed and what kind of care. And honestly, it was hard. And it was, I would say, the most fortunate thing in my life ever and one of the hardest things ever. So that's what Sangha means. And oh, how did it affect my practice in my life? It sort of is my life. Like his teachings and being able to spend that kind of concentrated time around him informs everything I do. Because when you spend time with a Mahasiddha, which I think he was, there's a bigger view of the world than my little Ohio Midwestern mind ever imagined. But actually did imagine, because that's why I think I was attracted to him. It was like I kind of knew that kind of brilliance and compassion and care for the world was possible, but I never saw it embodied so much in one person. And then I was in contact with that on a pretty regular basis, and it just infiltrated my being. So I think, I'm neurotic, I have all my stuff, and I have the reference point of that as well. So they're both happening in my being, and I do the best I can.
Thank you, Valerie, so much. So now we have, before we end this session, we have an important announcement from Ken. I'm gonna put you here. Yeah.
Please stand by for an important announcement. Next Saturday is the 39th year, the 39th parinirvana of Trungpa Rinpoche. And within the Shambhala community, within his community of students, we celebrate that in many different ways. So we will be doing the same with this group to honor and celebrate Trungpa Rinpoche, as well as the spread of Buddha Dharma throughout the years internationally. And we will have a talk for an hour with Q&A, no breakout groups, followed by a celebration. There will be some poetry offered, a story or two, and toasts. And a way to prepare for that, for us to prepare, suggestion is to perhaps clean up your Zoom space a little bit. I'll be getting rid of some of this clutter behind me, or find a nicer space, perhaps have a flower arrangement, something simple. And to also perhaps bring a cookie, a glass of juice, maybe a spoonful of gin or beer, depending on time of day, or water. And then to wear something nice. For instance, I'm actually going to wear a button-down shirt. Simple, but just to really uplift the space a little bit, we'll have a bit of a party.
Sorry, Ken, you're muted. I don't know what happened.
So that's but
You're muted again. I don't know what's happening. Now we can hear
okay.
you.
So what was the last thing that was heard?
You said that's what's happening.
So that's what's happening. So with that being said, thank you everyone for your participation in this program. It's really wonderful. And Valerie, your talk was really fantastic, really just so clear and much appreciated. And I also appreciate the teaspoon and nice clothing analogy for the 2575, because I could never figure that out. So now I can. So next week, Harry Einhorn will be giving the talk, and readings will be provided, as always, by email and on WhatsApp. So please continue with your practice. Please come back and please join in celebrating Trungpa Rinpoche's life after the talk next week. So we'll end by dedicating the merit, and then Valerie will come back on and you can say goodbye. By this merit.
What happened here? Just one moment.
By this merit, may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may all beings be free. So,
Thank you,
Valerie.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Valerie.
Very much for everything.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank
you.
you.
Valerie, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Valerie. Be well,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you
Muchas
so
gracias.
much.
See you. Bye. See you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Terminó.